How to fix skinny fat with calisthenics. Coming up. What is going on, my friends? This is Jake of www.jakegayfitness.co.uk, and if this is your first time here on this channel, as well as being new to calisthenics body training, then you should definitely consider subscribing to the channel and turn on post notifications, because the videos I make on this channel are specifically for people like you, my friend, to help you reach your goals faster. And if you've been here for a while and you're a loyal crew member aboard the Gains Trade Express, then welcome back once again. I appreciate you as always. Right, so let's get straight into the good stuff, shall we? And really define what skinny fat is, right? Because obviously, if we're on one extreme or the other of being underweight, then it's obviously the solution is to gain weight and eat more. Whereas if we're on a situation where we're overweight, it's simple to, lose weight by eating less. But what if we're in the middle, right? What if we're in the middle and we don't really know what to do? It's perfectly understandable to feel overwhelmed in this realm, because, if you look at my starting point when I first began my fitness journey, I was literally like a prime example. I was like a model example of what skinny fat looks like, right? And so what skinny fat really looks like is really someone who, again, you're not necessarily overweight, but you just lack muscle definition. Do you see what I mean? And that's where, again, in this situation, what I found with this, initially I was like, okay, if I've got stubborn fat and, to lose weight, that means I'd have less fat. What I actually found though, is that when I actually did this, I actually looked worse, because I'd actually either kept my muscle mass the same or even lost muscle. So I actually looked worse, right, than before. And so that's where, again, I actually came to the realization after months of trial and error that, my problem was not actually so much, fat, right? My problem was actually that I didn't have enough muscle mass. Do you see what I mean? Because if we're in that skinny fat area, right, that means our muscle fat ratio is relatively low, right? Whereas if we focus on increasing lean muscle mass, right, then we'll increase our muscle to fat ratio. Do you see what I mean? There's three main problems that people lie into when it comes to, trying to fix skinny fat themselves, which again, is exactly the same problems and mistakes I made myself. And, problem number one is not enough strength training or resistance training. Because again, the main problem with skinny fat is not so much fat for the majority, right? It's the main problem is literally not enough muscle, right? Because when you build more lean muscle, the fat you have on your body won't appear as visible, right? Problem number two is not eating enough calories, maybe being a severe calorie restriction, where we think when we're in the skinny fat situation that, we've got to lose weight, we've got to eat less, like barely any calories. But if we aren't actually increasing muscle mass, we're not actually, fixing the problem that we really actually need to solve. And then problem number three is too much cardio, and particularly, too much steady state cardio over a prolonged period of time. Because too much cardio, as it is, in most cases, some form of stress on our body, especially steady state, right? That's where, again, your recovery will be impacted to the point where if you've got so much endurance training to recover from, as well as your strength workouts, then ultimately your strength and muscle gains will be impacted as a whole. Do you see what I mean? Now, as we've covered, the three main problems, let's cover the three main solutions, shall we? And again, we'll use myself as an example, as again, my starting point was literally like a model example of what a skinny fat guy may look like. Do you see what I mean? So obviously solution number one, as I said, problem number one is not enough muscle. Solution number one is to focus on, building muscle and getting stronger in your workouts. And with calisthenics, that is by progressively overloading our muscles over time by getting stronger each and every week consistently, right? Because ultimately muscle is a byproduct of strength. If you're getting stronger and stronger over time, you're naturally going to build more muscle. As you've seen my progress as an example, obviously if I was to just do the same stuff over and over again, my body wouldn't change, but obviously my physique has evolved over time simply by getting stronger in my body weight based workouts. You see what I mean? Solution number two is to cut down on the cardio. Now, I'm not saying to cut down completely on the cardio, right? Because obviously cardio is, actually healthy and necessary for cardiovascular health, right? Keeping the heart itself healthy as well, right? But ultimately, maybe if you're in that skinny fat situation, it may be because you're doing too much cardio relative to strength training, right? So let's say if you're playing sports, then you can count that as your cardio, right? Or instead of doing cardio almost every day, cut it down to 2 to 3 times, right? And make it more general rather than exhausting. So your body doesn't have to focus so much on recovering from that and your strength workouts. So you can focus more on recovering to make the most strength and muscle gains, you know what I mean? But, as a good rule of thumb, if you're stuck on where you can go with this, in most cases, just make sure you're prioritizing your strength training over your cardio itself. Do you see what I mean? And then solution number three is to adjust your caloric intake based on your goals and needs. And before I go into the caloric intake, you've got to make sure you're eating enough protein. Again, that's the biggest problem people are making when it comes to skinny fat. When I was 140 pounds I was eating less than 100 grams of protein per day. Do you know what I mean? And as a good rule of thumb, 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is more than suffice to make sure you can, you know, actually give your body sufficient amino acids for them to repair and regrow bigger and stronger over time, right? And so when it comes to skinny fat, there's people in different types of, you know, starting points, right? And so really there's someone who, let's say, may want to focus more on fat loss because they've genuinely got more fat to lose. And so in that situation, you'd want to focus on a calorie deficit of, you know, 500 calories a day if your goal is primarily to lose fat. And so this usually gravitates towards people who are at least 18% body fat, right? If you're someone who maybe is a slightly lower body fat and has more stubborn fat that they'd like to lose, as an example, one of my first clients, Bruno, right? We actually then focus on decreasing body fat, right? So instead of a bigger calorie deficit, we focus on a very small calorie deficit of like 250 calories a day. That way, you know, he actually ate the right calories to actually lose, you know, a bit of stubborn fat, but he was also eating enough to support the strength and muscle gains he was making in his workouts, hence why he was able to lose a bit of fat and build a bit of muscle in the process, right? If you're in a similar situation to my starting point and you primarily want to focus on just gaining weight, as an example, I started out as like 120 pounds, skinny, weak and insecure, and honestly that's where you want to consider a lean calorie surplus of, let's say, 200 to 300 calories a day, right? And lastly, the last type of person you may want to consider is someone who you may be looking like one of my clients, Tim. When he first started out with body training calisthenics, he hadn't worked out at all, and what we did is that we actually ate at around maintenance calories to start off with, and as his body grew and grew over time, that's where we simply increased the calories slightly to support the strength and muscle gains he was making, right? And so if we look at these three prime examples of, you know, Bruno, Tim and myself, right, you know, all of our body fat levels actually dropped despite eating way more than before, because as we've established, our primary need in the skinny fat type of area is to actually, you know, build more muscle rather than focus solely on losing weight. Do you see what I mean? And so I said, if you are watching this video as a busy work professional and you don't really have the time to, you know, do the guesswork yourself, and you are fully committed to transforming your body and every other area of your life, just like myself, Tim and Bruno, then of course that is what, you know, my coaching program, the Bodyweight Transformation Blueprint, is for, right? So again, if this is something you're interested in and you don't want to suffer through the months and years of painful trial and error that I've had to, then of course you can actually check out the link in the description below and actually, you know, schedule a free consultation call to see if or how I can help you, and, you know, to actually establish whether we're actually a good fit to work together, right? This would be no actual upfront commitment to the program. It's just me getting to know you a bit more and seeing how, you know, again, if or how I can help you, right? And so as I said, if you enjoyed this video, you like my content, you enjoyed watching every single minute and every single second of this video, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and comment down below what part of this video you found most helpful. I'd love to know, because again, this was an area of mine that I struggled with for so many months, and it's very rewarding to see that, you know, not only have I been able to overcome it myself, but I've actually been able to help so many people who are in the exact same spot as me overcome that themselves. Because once you're able to sculpt your body in a way in which you can be proud of what you see in the mirror, then, you know, every other area of your life transforms as well, which, as I said, is extremely rewarding. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, my friend, and as a crew member of the Gain Straight Express, keep moving forward.